Hello everyone! This will be chapter 32 of The Second Life of the Guardian, written and read by Insect Overlord. This chapter is titled Scrapes and Bruises, and has content warnings for possibly bullying. Izuku took his time walking to school. He stared up at the dreary clouds above him. It smelled like rain. He had left earlier than he usually did that morning, so he'd have time to clear his head. They hadn't even started the process of moving Eri to the office, and he was already stressed. He had just gotten used to sharing his space, and now it was being switched up again. He was also still acclimating to having a little sibling. He was used to being the one who chose what shows they watched in the evenings, and being the one his parents focused all their attention on. He wasn't jealous. He was happy to share with Eri. She needed it more than he did right now. It was too much change at once. He couldn't help the twisting of his stomach when he thought too hard about it. He was trying to hold himself together. He was a big sibling now. He had to set a good example, but he could feel himself slipping. So, practicing what he had learned in therapy, he gave himself some space. Izuku kicked the same rock across the sidewalk for the fourth time during his slow trudge. Sometimes it helped to focus on a small task when he was overwhelmed. When he made it all the way to his elementary school building without losing it, he deemed it a lucky rock and slipped it into his pocket. He may not need it, he was Tiki's bug after all, but a little extra luck wouldn't hurt. As he walked up to the gates, he spotted Katsuki leaning against the building. Izuku rolls his eyes. Of course he was early. He was always so serious about his studies. When he got a little closer, he noticed something that made him pause. Katsuki had a bruised cheek. Now, this in and of itself wasn't unusual. As much as he tried to be a good student, he was still Katsuki. He got into a lot of fights, though he was careful to do it off school grounds so he wouldn't get caught. When he was caught, though, the teachers tended to let him off with a warning because of his good grades and his quirk. But there was something different about this. Katsuki was hunched in on himself. He didn't look like someone who just picked a fight and won, because Katsuki would have won. Izuku was sure of it. At the very least, Katsuki would have given as good as he got. So then, why did he look so subdued? Izuku straightened his shoulders and steeled himself. They may not be friends anymore, but he wasn't about to sit by as some kid got hurt. Ka-chan, he called out from a few feet away. Katsuki whipped his head at the sound. When he noticed who it was coming from, he sneered. All traces of whatever that was gone, and replaced with his usual haughty attitude. "What do you want, Deku?" Izuku shuffled his feet. He hated that name. "Well, I was wondering what's wrong with your face." He cringed. That came out wrong. "Huh? Are you making fun of me?" He scoffed and lifted his chin up. "If anyone has a messed up face, it's you, stupid nerd. What, did your mom drop you as a baby to make you look so ugly?" His hands popped and a few sparks flew. Okay, Izuku needed to backtrack if he was going to get an answer. "What I meant was," he acquiesced, waving his hands in front of himself. "What happened to your cheek? It's bruised." He pointed at the spot on his own cheek. A stray drop of rain hit his finger. Katsuki's face grew angrier, and he marched towards Izuku. "Why do you care? You're not my friend. You're just a stupid weakling who'll never amount to anything." He stalked closer. "You're not smart, and you'll never be a hero. You're just a stupid little brat." He punctuated the last statement by shoving Izuku's shoulders. Thanks to his much too heavy backpack, he lost his balance and fell backwards. He tried to catch himself, but only ended up scraping his palms on the pavement. He held his stinging hands in front of his face. There were bits of gravel stuck along the edges, and the scrapes were already starting to bleed. The blood mixing with the rain, which had grown to a drizzle. He felt tears prick at his eyes. He looked up to, he didn't know what. To confront Katsuki, or maybe push harder to find out what was wrong? But Katsuki wasn't there anymore. The only hint Izuku had of his whereabouts was the swinging front door of the school. Why had he done that? Izuku hadn't provoked him, had he? No, he just asked what happened. Katsuki's response was a gross overreaction, right? If Katsuki had just gotten in another fight, he wouldn't have gotten so defensive. Well, unless he lost. Maybe it was that. Katsuki just lost a fight. Izuku's hair was quickly getting soaked as he wiped the tears and tried to reassure himself that his ex-friend was okay, and that his words and actions didn't hurt. Katsuki was okay. Izuku was okay. He had gone through worse. Heck, he was kidnapped and tortured only a week ago. This was nothing. At least, that's what he told himself as he washed the blood and dirt off his fingers in the empty school bathroom. Izuku hadn't anticipated sitting in an empty classroom with the kid who just pushed him when he decided to leave for school an hour early. Neither of them said anything to the other, and it was making Izuku antsy. He wanted to ask what had happened, why he was so defensive over a bruise when he had one every other week and was all too proud to tell the story of where he got those. But the stinging of his hands stopped him. He tried to ignore the oppressive air of the room, choosing instead to focus on the sound of the rain pouring outside and the scratch of his pencil against the paper as he designed matching dresses for him and Eri. After about 15 minutes, Izuku was about to say F social rules and either interrogate him or walk out of the room, but before he could, Katsuki spoke. I fell. Izuku glanced at Katsuki and furrowed his brow. He was still sitting in his chair, very much not on the ground. What? Katsuki sighed and looked up to meet Izuku's eyes. Izuku looked away. I fell down the stairs and hit my cheek. I didn't want you to know, 'cause it's not as cool as saying I got in a fight, he explained. He sounded regretful. Izuku supposed this was the closest thing to an apology he would get from him. He wasn't sure if he believed him, but his excuse was plausible. Katsuki was the type to be embarrassed by normal human mistakes. Izuku would keep an eye on him, just in case. Oh, okay. He turned back to his notebook, the metaphorical weight in the air lifted. The rest of the wait to class was much more pleasant. This concludes Chapter 32 of The Second Life of the Guardian. I hope you guys liked this one. I'm setting up for another arc here that's probably going to be 7 chapters long, maybe? But there'll be, inserts of other things within the arc, too, like cleaning the beach and stuff, so not all going to be focused on one thing for the next 7 chapters. The next chapter should be up soon, and thank you so much for listening.